dönüyorum arkadaşlar izninizle.
Kayıt var değil mi?
Evet ama sadece bizim Zoom dersimizde kaydediliyor ve dönemin sonunda da yeni ders yüklenirken bunların hepsi gidiyor. Aslında şu anda sadece final sınavına mı diyeyim hani hazırlık öncesi genel olarak konuklarımızı kendi üniversite Zoom'umuzda tutup yapıyoruz yani. Öyle
Ben
YouTube'a falan
kaydedebiliyor muyum?
koymuyoruz.
Ben
Ha?
kaydedebiliyor muyum buradan? Ben kaydedebilir miyim?
Bir dakika sana vereyim. Herkes için uygun mudur?
Uygun.
Da tabii ya ben sadece kendim için daha
Uygun.
sonra dönüp izleyip nelerde yanlış şeyler söyledik diye bakmak için.
Tamam.
Tamam. Recording tamam. Record etmeye başladı galiba.
Tamamdır.
Çok
O halde
teşekkür ederim. Sağ olun.
biz teşekkür ederiz. Öncelikle bizle birlikte olmayı kabul ettiğin için. O halde ben başlıyorum dersimize izninizle. Okay. So today again we are here for talking about entrepreneurship and our guest lecturer is Polat Gülman from Gülman Group. He is managing a family company but also created his own company. So an entrepreneur, an investor, and have a lot of different identities, so that today we will be talking with him about different perspectives and as the managerial field of it. So welcome again to you all, and welcome Polat, and thank you for accepting being with us today.
Thank you for the invitation. I appreciate everyone's time this morning, and thank you for joining in. For those of you who are joining just now, it's 10 a.m. on Sunday in Turkey, so I know it's early, and I know it's precious, relaxing time. So I appreciate your time, and thank you for inviting me to this conversation.
Thank you again. So some of us know about you, about Gülman Group, about you, but to give basic information about you as who is Polat Gülman, would you please tell us about yourself?
Sure. I'll give you a brief introduction. As many of you, I had my education in English, so I went to a U.S. college. So most of you are going to a school that is taught in English. So it's a big benefit. I studied finance and psychology as an undergrad. And then I had jobs, various jobs in the US in banking. I worked for Merrill Lynch. And then I did a natural stone business, granite and marble, where you learn a lot about salesmanship, which is a fantastic field. And then I did real estate. So in real estate, I worked first as a real estate broker and then as a subcontractor. And then I tried to develop my own properties as an investor. It's a small time business, but it was a very a great learning education because it's a real economy business. It's not anything.
Okay.
It's not on the computer, basically. So it gave me a lot of discipline in various fields. So my background is basically until 2009, I was in the US working these businesses. And then upon my father's request, I came back to Turkey to join the family business. And just to give you a brief curveball, I was fired from my own family business. So it wasn't that easy. So I first worked with my family for a couple of years. And then, due to generational differences, let's say, we had disagreements and we couldn't see eye to eye. And so I was literally fired upon coming back from the US. And so I had to go and work for a Turkish developer, which was a great experience again. I worked there for 5 years. And I joined as a consultant, and then I became the general manager, and then I was on the board, managing the company. I was doing the development almost by myself. It was a fantastic experience because I worked with many different brands. I brought a hotel chain to Turkey. I did the residential development along with the office development. There I worked for 5 years, and then I was asked by my father again to join the family business at that point. After reestablishing myself probably the third time in my life. So I would say it was 2013 that I came back to the family business. And then since then, I've been working the family business. Now I'm the general director, CEO, all those titles, but basically I'm running the show. And we do real estate. We are in renewable energy. and we are also in venture capital businesses. You know, we're investing into various funds and companies around the world. So it was a great exposure, but that's basically who I am.
Well, there are a lot of different identities, as I said, so you didn't surprise us on that point. So at first you started in your family business. So to start from that side, what are the challenges and also positive points being in a family company? I mean, instead of being fired by the daddy.
Yeah, of course. You know, it could happen to anybody. You know, it's not easy. My father is also a self-taught person. You know, he didn't inherit anything from his dad. So the difficult part with that kind of generation is that, you know, because they created that value, or so to speak, their baby, they don't want to hand over that to you. You know, it's not that easy. So basically, taking someone's baby is a very big challenge. So you have to be very trustworthy, number one. You have to be as good as them, which is a very big challenge in itself. Doesn't matter how educated you are, how smart you are, you know, how charming you are. It doesn't matter. What matters is the other person should feel that you can manage the business as good as they can, which, you know, in the beginning is quite impossible because you don't have the experience. And therefore, you have to go as an apprentice, so to speak, for a while. You know, the most difficult thing I would say is that, you know, your working friends, you can change them. You know, you can just leave the job, go for another job, so you can change the players. But in the family, that is impossible. You learn to work and live with these people. So, you know, these people are my family. So it's, you know, you can't change them. So you can't pick and choose. You just learn to overcome difficulty. That's the biggest advantage, I would say. The good thing is, you know, it's a family business at the end of the day. It's warm sometimes. You know, sometimes it gets cold, but there are some also good aspects. So I would say that, you know, discipline is the number one thing, you know, that you have to overcome, because if you work for someone else, you know, you can always leave the job, and at the end of the day, you don't have to think about it. But family business, it's a 24-hour thing. You know, they ask you at the dinner table, they ask you even on a weekend, what's going on, what did you do, how did you do it wrong? They always find the negative. You know, nobody promotes the positive. Nobody's going to clap you or say, oh, you did a great job. If you work for someone else, your boss is more inclined to tell you what you did good as opposed to what you did bad, because it's politically correct. But in the family business, those filters are removed. So you get all the beating, you know, on your off working hours. So it has been challenging, but at the end of the day, once you establish the relationship on an equilibrium, it's really good. It's very satisfying. I mean.
Yeah, in family business, that's for sure that there are different relations that you can't run away. Even if sometimes you decide to go, you can't go. So yeah, there are different dynamics, I'm sure, that you also faced with. But also you are an entrepreneur and an investor. So as you mentioned, you give funds, you support entrepreneurs, and also you are an entrepreneur yourself, that you are managing a company you completely did big innovation in. I mean, it is a family company, but it is not like the family company any longer in Gülman Group, because you made a lot of changes in it, I'm sure, in your perspective, in your vision. So on the, you know, what are the points that entrepreneurs would do it better or do it wrong, that you see on that point, or could be better if they do it different in investor visits? I mean, as the investor side, if I was an entrepreneur, I can come to you and I explain you about my startup idea. But what are the points that it could be better if I do it different? Lately, what you experienced in entrepreneurs you met? I'm based on fact.
Well, you know, I would say, you know, since I was on the other side of the table, I can relate. You know, there are many pitfalls as an entrepreneur. You love what you do and you think what you do is the best one. Okay. So this is number one. Most people think that what they created is the only way that can be created, or it's probably the better way. It's not always true. You know, unfortunately, when you get on the other side of the table, or when you sit across yourself, you basically have to have a very good analysis of the market. You know, oftentimes entrepreneurs, they get caught up in what they're creating, and they forget who the other players are in the market. So competitors, you know, people who are developing similar products, it could be their close friends that might be, you know, behind closed doors creating something. You have to be aware of what's going on around your environment. Sometimes you miss a phase. By the time you develop something, sometimes you miss some trends also, because it takes such a long time. For some entrepreneurs, it's very quick. For some, it takes much longer. And these things depend on variables, you know. Sometimes it's the law, sometimes it's financial strain, sometimes it's the economy, sometimes it's your team, because they're willing to work or they're not willing to work. You know, it's very hard to motivate people in that case. So entrepreneurs fail to, explain themselves about, expansion and growth. How are they going to expand this company? How are they going to grow this business? You know, one of the biggest pitfalls, I would say, especially in our country, is that, they need assistance in explaining their growth plan, you know, because not everything is sustainable. You know, some businesses are like, hit songs one summer, you listen to them for 3 months and then you never listen to it, you know those things. And it's okay. Those are like casual games, in gaming industry. It's fine. It's nothing wrong with that. But then be prepared that that one single is going to be listened to only for 3 to 6 months. So that means your income is going to be only for that 6 months period. So anything beyond that is just a failure of a dream that didn't come true. So you should prepare yourself for that, basically an accurate growth plan, because ours is, most of the time I find though, it's a bit vague, the intention is good, the will is good, but, you have to have a better plan about that. That's what I think.
It's basically that what I realize is that entrepreneurs fall in love with their ideas, so that they can't be objective and they can't focus on the, growth side, but just the excitement of the idea, how it is unique, how it's creative, so that sometimes they are not thinking on the investor side, as you mentioned, but investors look for other perspectives as well on that point. So that's right, that they need to match on the midpoint.
Lütfi has a question.
Yeah, Lütfi, please.
I have a question. Actually, I am curious how it's impacted your decisions when you joined your family business. Actually, you found a legacy, right? So there was already an established business. And how did it impact your investment decision to the new areas? Or is there any impact at all?
Yeah, definitely. It's a very important question. It's a very good point. Oftentimes nobody thinks about that, but it's very difficult because look, the founder has made the money. I'm not the one who made the money. I'm the one who inherited, and my main role is to maintain. Okay, so I can't afford to lose, basically. And when you have that much at stake, when the guy who's making the money, he can lose because he made the money. He's only losing from his profits. But I, on the other hand, have a double responsibility to make sure that I don't lose. So mine was in the beginning more risk averse, or instead of investing, let's say 5, I invested 1. So I tried to keep the risk to a point where I said, okay, if I lose this investment completely, can I pay it? Can I pay for it? Can I pay it out of pocket? If that's something I could do, then I said, okay, I'm willing to take this risk, because, at the end of the day, even if I made the money or the fortune, I should be willing to take the risk only as much as what I'm worth. If I'm betting too much, that's called real gambling, and I don't promote that for anybody, none of the entrepreneurs. You can take risks. You can bet on things. Of course, this is the spirit. It's just part of the job or part of the business, but you shouldn't take a risk more than your own height, so to speak, in Turkish. So That's why I was very hesitant in the beginning. You know, I did a lot of research. I went to a lot of venture capital funds. You know, I talked to a lot of entrepreneurs. I discussed it. I consulted a lot of people. And, you know, look, nothing is sure. The great businesses you think is going to do superbly, they're mediocre. You know, they did not so good. And some of the companies that you least expect outperformed tremendously. So you can actually never know, but you know, you just have to be very careful. I mean, if you have one filter, I had 5, you know, it went through all those filters. So basically that was the impact on me. You're welcome.
Thank you for the question, Lütfi. So that's true. I mean, the perspective you are saying that especially entrepreneur and investor side, yes, entrepreneurs maybe should you know, think about the investor's perspective as well while going for the investor meetings. That's the right point that also I experienced it around me from my students, from the entrepreneurs I meet. So we talked about the family side of the family business, how it is, you know, it has challenges, it has positive points, but also as the country, lately we had unicorns, decacorns even, and you know, it is turning into that Turkey is really in the game in global area. So that what are the points that Turkey has a competitive advantage or advantages in the global area?
Well, you know, the competitive advantage that we have, you know, in Turkey is that founders in Turkey or Turkey, whatever you want to say, are very capable, you know, very capable, you know. So comparable to their peers, of course, around the world. I wouldn't say that we are behind most of the nations. We are really up there, you know. This is not something new for us. Yes, I mean, it is relatively new, but, you know, the education level and the technical superiority in Turkey has definitely, you know, has a great performance. You know, the main problem, I would say, I mean, if that, I don't know if that was part of your question, but, you know, there's the advantage is that technically we're superior, but the disadvantage, if you want to ask also about that, is, I would say it's about sales, you know, sales and marketing. You know, we're not the best sales and marketing people. Like, I just want to make one comparison in Turkey, for example. Companies from Istanbul are great at marketing, okay? So I don't know if it's because there are more tourists here, or is it because we have more experience with sales? You know, founders from Istanbul are definitely good at it. Founders from Ankara, they're technically sometimes better, but they're terrible in sales or marketing. They can't, you know, package the goods, you know, so to speak. So, you know, my father has a quote that I'd like to share. It's, you know, he says, even God sent the prophet before him to promote him. So, you know, you need someone to promote you. You need a company or a service to talk about you before you come, that you're coming, that you're making, that you're in the works. You know, all these things, all these tricks that you use, it really helps, because you need to create the hype. You want to use newspapers, you want to use social media, you want to use your friends and family. You know, that's why we call friends and family discounts. You know, so you need to do these things before you start going to talking to investors, because if an investor has never heard about it, you know, it's very difficult to sell it. So I think that founders in Turkey, technically, they're on the right path. They're wonderful. It's just that they just need to better themselves with, you know, with the world. First, you know, do a better market analysis, because oftentimes it's the market analysis is like what they believe in, you know, so it's not really accurate. The data is not there. And second is marketing and sales, basically. And the two go together. You know, if you don't market yourself, you can't do sales. I mean, without marketing, there is no sales, unless you want to go and sell it yourself all the time, which you can't. Look at Nusret, the steak guy. He's in every restaurant, right? Okay. And this guy is one-man show. I mean, he has a great team, but, you know, he flies to every city every week. Okay. So the minute, this is a real fact, I'm quoting him. The minute he leaves Istanbul to go to Dubai, the sales or the reservations in Dubai goes up by 35%. So imagine if you clone this guy, okay, and you made someone look like him, you know, he doesn't speak at the end of the day. So, you know, if you just find a guy that looks like him and you send it to every different city, he can take a few days off and relax, and the sales will be great. But, you know, his sales are, you know, I can't say it's suffering, but, you know, it just jumps 35% every time he takes a plane. So it's not very good, you know, basically. But just that is just to show you the power of marketing, because he's sending Instagram and he's saying, I'm going there, I'm coming here, or whatever foolish thing he says. It works, you know. So I would say that, you know, that's our disadvantage. And the advantage is, technically, because the education system in Turkey is good and the entrepreneurs in Turkey are hardworking, I would say that we have strong competitive advantage. Just we have to work on sales and marketing.
That's true. And also, I was planning to ask you, what do you think about Turkish entrepreneurship ecosystem? But you a little answered it already. But
I want to add one thing. Yeah, go ahead and finish your sentence, and then I want to add one more thing.
No, I mean, please continue, because my next question will be, what do you think about entrepreneurial ecosystem in Turkey?
Yeah, the ecosystem, you know, is very challenging. I have to be honest. You know, Turkey is unfortunately, it's like you go into a room, okay, and you know there is one door, and if there's a fire, that door keeps moving, and you don't know where it is. You know, you can't exit the building. You know, you just go in the building, but there's no way out. So it's, in my view, the environment is ever changing. The legal structure is changing. The tax law is changing. The employment law changes so frequently. So your costs and your regulations affect the way you do business. But, you know, Turkish people are very adaptable to change. I mean, look at our economy, look at our politics. It's so ever changing that we are very flexible and we can adapt quickly. I just wished, you know, I'm not going to say that I wish it was like Switzerland, but I wish it was more consistent, where founders were more able to focus on their work rather than the environment of the ever-changing regulations, you know, because they spend a lot of energy with this. So they go to different ministries to change things, and they lobby and they try to do their best, but it's very challenging environment as an ecosystem.
So is there any questions that I keep asking questions, but I just
want to remind everyone that, you know, the first VC in Turkey started only 11 years ago. So we're still at the infancy of the venture capital ecosystem. So it's still, you know, we did come a long way, I have to say. There are great investments, there are great businesses in Turkey, great founders, and the numbers are very high. But, you know, it's really the beginning. So we have a long way to go. You know, there's a lot of exploration and improvement that's going to happen, I'm sure, over the years. But I just want to remind you, you know, it sounds like it's been there 30, 40 years, but we are the only generation that we can say our mom or our dad does not know anything about VC, you know? So it's great. They're entrepreneurs, but, you know, the VC environment, it's only 11 years old, so.
Yes, that was the biggest problem that people were facing in our times, that when I tell our parents that I want to become an entrepreneur, they were being like, couldn't you find a job? So you are graduated, so instead of staying at home and eating some chips and, you know, watching movies, you want to do something instead of being lazy. So you are trying to open, you know, a grocery shop or something. So it's entrepreneurship on their perspective. So why did you study if I will invest in you as extra money to create a business? Then you didn't have to study. You could do it as elementary school graduated. So these were the facts that we were facing. But thank God, at least from our generation, it will turn better.
I hope so. I hope so. Once we start making money, everybody's going to start believing. So
I remember that I studied PR and marketing at the university, and I remember that my grandmother was telling me that, will you sell something by visiting people's home or something like oven or something, like it is marketing. We call them as marketing persons. And I was like, dying. What are you saying? So yeah, that is completely different in today's world.
Yeah, they
So,
can't relate, so it's normal.
yeah, that's normal. Onur, I was thinking that you would ask construction questions as we quote Gülman Group CEO. He is also in construction business.
Mm.
Yes, I'm a
I'm
civil
realistic.
engineer.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering how you approach to project management. Actually, there are new project management styles. It was process-based before. Now it's more principle-based.
Mm-hmm.
And there are agile practices. But construction is a little bit still predictive because everything is known.
Yeah.
I mean, the budget, the drawings, everything is more clear than a software company. But also there are some new approaches to the project management in construction as well. So some lean-based structures are being used in some companies. How do you approach in project management in the construction?
Well, to be honest with you, my only experience, I met a lot of project management companies over the years, but as a professional, also as a business owner, I only work with Arup, the English company. So they're a bit slow and they're more like a military style. They're very, very strict, but it can create a lot of cost overruns because in project management, especially in Turkey and being Turkish, we are more practical instead of looking at the paper. What's going to happen, so you just react very quickly. So the fact that you react quickly, it saves you a lot of money. So not always, because you don't follow the rules, but most of the time, it helps. It really helps. So I have great respect for project management. I think every real estate company, by the way, we're not a construction company, we're a real estate company. We invest in construction projects. But basically, when you look from the investor's side, or even if you're a bank, project management is something that you shouldn't do without. Most construction companies in Turkey say that they have a great team and they have great experience, and look at the projects that they did. And so they expect you to just let go, and just be in their mercy about projects. But I think that project management company is like the referee in a soccer game, So they're the controller. So they can tell you when you're supposed to get out of the game, or if you should extend the game a little bit further. So process-based is also good, but principle-based is probably better. The only problem I see in project management is that if you work with different types of companies in one project, people start going like this, So everybody keeps blaming each other. So it's better to go with the same team, same company, whether it's the mechanical, technical, engineering, whatever, or statistics, structural, engineering. So basically, everybody should work together. So if you just have one architect design and the other engineer do it, they keep blaming each other all day long. And that takes 3 years, and it's very tiring, and it's usually very costly. So my experience is just, if you're going to work with someone, work with the whole team and keep it under one company. But programs are great, budgets are great. It's good to know, so to speak, where you stand, but nothing can predict the reality of a construction site, because construction is one of the most waste creation item. Construction is, when you buy one nail, let's say you need 500, people usually buy 1,000, double, just because that they're going to steal, or they're going to waste, or they're going to misuse, or they're going to drop. You know what happens. So every item, there's a lot of line items in construction, cost items. So project management definitely helps for time and costs. So I have great respect for project management. Without it, I wouldn't do anything.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Polat, okay, Engin is asking a question, Lütfi as well. But before that, not to forget, you talked about projects. So what are the projects that you do in your company lately? Just like, make
Sure.
us
Well,
have information more maybe.
Yeah, sure. We have been, we did offices and residential up until this point. We only had one warehouse. We still have that warehouse, but our next project is going to be a warehouse in Tuzla, about 40,000 meters square. It's going to be for an e-commerce company, a German company. We're building to suit their needs. It's called build to suit. You know, basically you build according to your client's needs. We would like to, you know, keep the building. We're not going to sell it, and we just want to lease it to them for a long term. That's the project we do, and we have another 4 in the pipeline after that in Gebze area. And hopefully in 2023, we are going to start a residential construction, but multifamily. It's like, so to speak, like Toplu Konut project in Turkey, in Ispartakule region. And then we will have a Devre Mülk. So it's like a condo rental in Izmir, Mordoğan area. So those are the 3 projects that we are currently developing, basically. And one car park.
We are Turks, so
we need the parking. You know,
we need a car park. That's for
definitely
sure.
needed. So that park is going to have probably, you know, electrical charging stations for cars, but you know, developing it all at the same time, it's kind of proving challenging lately because of the licensing. But we're probably going to build the car park first and then add that component later. But
it is so needed. I mean, electric.
Yeah.
Last time I wanted to experience electric car in Turkey, like 6 months ago or more. I was in Çerkezköy. My home is in Beşiktaş. It took me 11 hours to come as no electric in the car. It stopped and there is no battery station. I stopped in every, you know, car cleaning places. They are giving me Turkish tea with all petroleum oil on it. I'm sitting like this, please give me some electric so I can continue. And it took 11 hours. I mean, then I said no electric car until it is all battery stations around.
Wait until the infrastructure is there. That's the problem, you know. You don't have the infrastructure, and then they try to sell you the car. And that's the, you know, going roundabout ways about doing this business. But that's why we should buy a hybrid.
We love doing it at first and then thinking about the details.
I say Karadeniz style. Shoot first, aim later, you know?
Yeah, that's exactly the truth.
Yeah. So, but it's okay. You know, look, it's gonna develop. I mean, there is no way about it. You know, it's gonna develop. It's just gonna take longer than we think. It's not gonna happen in a year or 2 years time. The numbers are very. I mean, just let me give you a little numbers, guys. I'm sorry to keep you waiting, but you know, 2 numbers. Basically, the number of electrical cars in Turkey as of last year, the figures are 7,500. Okay, all of Turkey. This year, it's supposed to be 25,000. Let's see what happens. And once TOG is, you know, rolled out of the company in the factory, I'm sure ÖTV is going to come down. The you know, the tax is going to come down for it, and the tax for the foreign cars are probably going to go up. So they will promote the local brand. As long as the charging stations are going at a good speed, I would say yes, we have a chance to achieve 75,000 in 2 years. But that's that. 75,000 is nothing. But still, you know, until then, your next car should be a hybrid between fuel and energy, so that if you're stuck in the road, you don't have to wait. But you know, by the time we phase into electrical cars, probably it's going to be hydrogen that we're going to need, because you know, they're not going to have enough batteries for the cars. So there's always another challenge. Let's go with Engin Bey first.
Yeah. Then I will ask my question is, what will happen about the price of real estate in Turkey? Then everyone will be like this.
There's only one way in Turkey. It's always going to go up because of inflation. You know, the cost of prices, they're not going to come down. You know, inflation, just project inflation for 50% minimum for the next 2-3 years. So that, you know, that gives you an idea that real estate market is not going to stay still. The only thing is the real estate sales perhaps may slow down, or construction may slow down for Turkish demand, but foreign demand is still there. I mean, foreigners are the ones who are buying right now, and that's for the passports, you know. So it's not the real demand.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So, Engin, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Polat Bey, you mentioned different business perspective between your generation and your father's generation. Could you please explain a little bit more? How would you compare your approach and your father or your father's generation approach? What are the differences?
Well, you know, yeah, it's a good question. It's just hard to just say it, you know, simply because look, these people, the older generation, you know, they did not have a computer, okay? They did not have a cell phone. They didn't even have TV at some point of their lives, you know, most part of their lives. So what they had is pen, paper, and a calculator and a typewriter, okay? So that tells you that the discipline they have is far beyond the discipline that we know of, okay? So it's a big, it's very competitive. I mean, if you put my father and myself in the same room, more than likely, up until this year, probably, he was going to win at any game that we're playing or any business we do because he's competitive. He's disciplined, you know. He will be there earlier than me. He will stay there longer than me. He will work more concentrated. You know, he can work without water, tea, coffee, whatever. We're used to, you know, a lot of, you know, luxuries in our life. For example, look, I'm talking to you. I have coffee and water on my table. You know, I have an office with electricity. You know, we're a very fortunate generation, so we do not realize these things. We are in bounty of things, you know, in great bounties. In their generation, again, you know, even the ink on the pen was not there. They didn't have caffeine in this country when they were growing up. I mean, when you think about that, so it's very hard to compete, number one, with a guy like that. He's a warrior. You're a mercenary. So it's different. So you get paid for the fight you do, and he didn't get paid until he made money. So, you know, they had to prove themselves. So when you ask my dad, how did you become successful? He says, you know, I didn't have a choice. We have a choice. We have parents that pay for things that when we need them, you know, thank God. But, you know, approaching him or working with him even, I had to adapt to his working standards. I have to adapt to his working diligence and neatness and being tidy. Or, I mean, I'm very tidy myself, but him, you know, he's extraordinary. When I do something, I try to do my best. To him, doing best is mediocre, you know. You have to do it 3 times if you have to, but make it perfect. There is no such thing. I feel it's like a waste of time, but it's not. It just makes you feel stronger and better. And, you know, when you talk to him or when he asks you about something, a different industry, let's say a plastic industry or the steel industry or the chemical industry, you know, these people read newspaper. It's not like we look at the photos and we switch over the titles and we go scroll fast, you know. They read everything that was available. So they were very well-rounded. You could talk to them about politics. You could talk to them about sports. You could talk to them about different industries. We can only talk about popular things that we see. I mean, I'm not a social media user, but, you know, on Instagram, Facebook, and newsletters or the titles of newspapers, you know, how many of us read real newspapers, you know? So, for example, so it is very, very difficult to approach him. But after a certain time, when he sees that you are as careful or as diligent as he is, then he starts trusting. Or he starts believing, or at least supporting to believe that you're on the right way, let's say, then he becomes more open. And number one thing he always told me is that, you know, I'm not supposed to give you work. You're supposed to take work from me. So, you know, work is like that. You know, usually as employees, you're like, okay, boss, what can I do now? That's not the way it is. You're just supposed to just take it from him. So me taking from him was the biggest fight I had to give in my life, you know? So it was really difficult. I mean, it's very frustrating, number one. You know, personally, you feel horrible because that's your dad, you know, and but it makes you a man, you know. So that's my thoughts. I mean, I don't know. Does that answer your question? Do you want me to talk different something?
No,
Yeah.
thank you. Or Engin, you have another
Yeah,
question?
thank you so much. But in general, you mentioned mainly the advantage or the strong parts of the old generation. But I believe that your generation in general more adaptive than this ongoing change, especially on the digital area. So yeah.
You would be surprised. My father is 90 years old, and he's using WhatsApp, and he has an Instagram account. I don't even have one. So I mean, I think he does. I'm not sure. He says he does. I'm not sure. Maybe he's looking at someone else's, but I don't. So I mean, he's like, put me on LinkedIn. He's like, I want to use LinkedIn. I'm like, that. Even I don't have a LinkedIn. So, oh, by the way, this is time for commercials. I'm sorry. If you want to know more about my dad, we just published his book. So, and you can find it in bookstores. So this is the part about marketing and sales. And this is to go as a benefit for Türkiye Eğitim Vakfı. So all the proceeds will go there. This year is our 70th business year. And my father is 90. So I was able to just convince him in 10 years to write a book about himself. And that took us 1 year to write the book. So it's just been published, and you can find it in all major bookstores or online. Or if you don't want to read and you want to listen to it, it's on Storytel as audiobook as well. So, yeah, I mean, there are great stories there, by the way. You can really listen to it.
Okay, if we get a personal signature with a book when we visit,
absolutely, with pleasure. He's going on a trip today for 1 month, but I will have it ready for you. So just give me the names and I'll have it ready for you.
Okay, we got the promise, guys. So everyone gets her book. And
don't worry, I promise.
Okay, deal. So now Adnan, I'm giving.
Today always had it also, and then we go to Adnan.
Yeah, first Adnan, because Lütfi asked. So Adnan asked and then Lütfi asked.
Okay,
to be
all right.
democratic, fair.
You're the moderator. Yes, okay, you're the moderator.
Merhaba.
Merhaba.
As an investor, and when you see a good project and investment project and some entrepreneur something, and what you are looking at first in project, and also second question, and you mentioned the filters, and some filters you are using when you're making decision, and I actually really wonder of them, and then I'm asking them because. Unseen emotional in Turkish environment, unseen emotional environment surrounding us. And when making decision, and you can be a manager and small business or big business, a CEO or something big company, doesn't matter. And I see unseen emotional something lines, and is there.
And what the last question you said about emotions, can you repeat one more time? I didn't quite understand what you were saying. I couldn't hear well.
Yeah, when we making decision and the unseen emotional environment, and we talking about this, we can't explain each other. But I realize that, and when you're matching the foreign companies, making decision, and like you said, military something. And maybe this is the normal for world, but it's not a normal for us. And in this point, and
so are you saying that sometimes it's not emotional, or there are emotions involved also?
No, I see many area, and also working on small and business entrepreneurial company supervisor in the bank, and I see that, and the big or small companies, and we use the emotional every time.
And you mean you use the emotional tactics?
Yeah, making decision. I realize that, making decision. And sometimes people say everything is normal, seems normal, and the project is clear, and we prepared the all things and realistic. But it doesn't work a little bit, I think. Maybe affect our decision, and 20%, I don't know.
I understand now. Yes. Okay. Did you have anything else to say? 3 items, right? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This one.
Okay. Now, basically, what I look first in a business or a startup or a VC is always, always, always number one is the founder, the guy who is running the business, who is created the business. At the end of the day, you are the leader of you're the captain of your ship, okay? So if you know the sea well, and if you know how to navigate, you will bring that ship to shore or to a safety or to a successful open water, wherever you want to go. But basically, you know, you cannot have a great team and you're a bad founder, okay? If you have, you know, interdisciplinary issues, if you have a gambling problem, if you have a very bad marriage, let's say, or if you have a very, very, very tough home life, okay? You can have a tough life too. And those affect your success rate for sure. There's no way about it, you know, there's no running away from this. So, but if you have a clear head, you know, you're serious and you have no fear in your face or your eyes, and you know what you're talking about. And if I believe you, the rest is just decoration, okay? So you have to make people believe in you. And the way you do it is you gain trust and you show your knowledge. You share. You can't just read to me, oh, the figures from this blah, 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 like a news person, you know? You have to be on top of it. So if you know it, when somebody asks you questions, then you're, you know, you did 90% of the job, or 80, let's say 80. And the 20% is your team, your luck, the times, the trends, you know, those are it. But 80% is the founder for me. That's my thing. The filters I use is, you know, first I go to an older generation person, you know. For example, I give you an example. I have a business partner who's 75 years old in Turkey. We invest in stock market, okay? I do stock market portfolio management since year 2000 myself, in, you know, globally. But in Turkey, I don't trust the stock market really well, even though I have favorite companies like 3, 4, you know, simple, Koç Holding, Şişe Cam, you know, the usual suspects, okay? But even though I like them, there is a way to play the stock market, you know. The easiest thing is buy and hold and forget about it, okay? It's like the rotisserie commercial. You put the chicken and you forget about it. But it's, you know, you put basically your investment there and you forget about it. So time, the time you're in the market is always proving to be profitable. I'm not supposed to tell you, you're the banker, but basically, the stock market here depend on many variables, you know, including politics, including manipulations, including certain trades, blah, blah, blah. So it's not as regulated as we think. So I went to this guy and I said to my business partner, his name is Nusret, by the way, but not the steak guy. And he said, you know, I said, what do you think about crypto and Bitcoin? And he says, you know, is this something I can put in the safe? I said, no. He said, can you just give it to me? Like, can I touch it? I said, no. He said, so what are you talking about? He said, what are you asking me for? So it was very simple, you know. The guy says, if you give me some cash or gold, I can put it in the safe. But crypto and Bitcoin, whatever you want to call it, it's not tangible. So for this guy, he doesn't register, okay? He doesn't want to understand. He doesn't even want to talk about it. So it's very simple. So I go to one older generation, then I go to a younger generation, then I go to someone who really knows the market or this industry, or at least knows better than me. You know, he doesn't have to be the top professor, but, you know, as long as he has experience. And then I sleep on it. I take 3 opinions, I sleep on it. And then I make my own decision. Once I make my decision, then I wait and I say, who else can I ask? Like somebody more wild, you know, like a wild card. It can be a banker, a lawyer, an insurance guy, because everybody has a different discipline. If you talk to an insurance guy, all he's going to talk about is risk. If you go to a banker, all he's going to talk about is leverage or collateral, you know. If you go and talk to a lawyer, he's going to talk about the legality of the issue. You know, if the investment goes bad, what can you recuperate? So I talk to different disciplinary people. And then I do have a coach too. I do have several coaches in different fields. Sometimes if they're available and if I can catch them on a good time, I'll just call them and ask them. and then I make my decision. So those are my filters, basically, in general, regardless of the topic. So if it's regarding farming, of course, I go and ask someone in farming. But that's that. Now, the emotional component, we're just a bowl of emotions, okay, as human beings. So, you have a good day, you feel invincible. My suggestion, don't make decisions when you're super happy and when you're super sad. That's, one thing. So, basically, how they say, don't drink and don't drive when you're drinking. So you're under the influence, your emotions are all over the place. So when you're upset, you look at life different. When you're happy, you look at life different. So when you find yourself in a more harmonious, equilibrium, then you should consider looking into them when you're deciding. How much of it is involved emotionally in humans? Great. I think there's a great percentage that is involved, because look, on Zoom, for example, can you get someone to say yes to $1 million investment? It's very difficult, isn't it? Very difficult. So you have to catch them face to face. You know why? Because you can read their emotions. You can read their, eye movement, face movement, their smiles, whether they like you, whether they don't like you. Do they pay attention to you? They don't pay attention to you. If it's your manager and you blow smoke, hot air to them and say, everything is great, we checked everything, we're going to do this, that guy has to be with no emotions, or that woman. The person in charge should always remove themselves from emotion. If they think they're emotional, they shouldn't make up their mind or make the decision then. They should delay. Just like, Vehbi Koç had this thing in his book, divide your decision-making into categories of hours. This is in 24 hours, this is in 48 hours, and this bin is for 72 hours. Look, I have a bin here, with all files that I make wait. This is my 72-hour bin, okay? So if I don't finish it in 3 days, that means I don't need to make a decision. So it's, it's something that you need to think about. Sometimes you shouldn't rush into things. That's my perspective. But am I sometimes emotional about the things that I pick and choose in business? Yes, I am. I mean, look, I invested in SpaceX, okay? And that was an emotional decision. I wanted it for 3 years. I wanted to invest in SpaceX. You know how long that is for a person? 3 years to want the same thing that you can't get? But look, the guy is doing great marketing. He's trying to get you to invest into something you cannot invest, which already tells you he's great in marketing. So, I think the reason he bought Twitter is for marketing purposes, by the way. Do I think it's a good decision? No, I absolutely hate it. It's great for freedom, but it's a very risky investment for the person who I invested in. I invested in Elon Musk, in SpaceX, but him going and investing in Twitter makes me scared every day. I wonder what he says, every day, whatever he tweets about. But that's not a good thing for me. But was it an emotional decision for me? Yes, it was, because I thought the space industry and him providing internet to the world is a very desirable thing. Is it as profitable as we think? We don't know. We're going to find out when he goes to the stock market, when he goes for IPO. So if he's successful, I'm going to say, I made a great decision. If he's not successful, I'm going to say I made an emotional decision. So emotions are greatly involved. I don't know if this answers all the question about emotions. I mean, if you think I didn't answer enough, tell me.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, Adnan, for the question, and Polat for the answer. Polat, I should send you my book, Corporate EQ, Understanding and Managing Emotions in Business.
Okay, I'm going to read it, definitely. Thank you. But I want the signature too.
Of course.
Okay, all right.
So, Lütfi, it's your turn.
Maybe I got partial answer to my question, but I will ask it anyway. So, as Gülman Group, your core business is real estate investments and project management. And you also mentioned that you are investing in renewable energy.
Yes.
And my question is, when you decide on investing new areas, do you usually relate it to your core business, or your core business does not matter at all?
Yeah, no. It's a very good question because look, I was thinking about this the other day. First, to answer your question, no, we do not focus on our core business. And I'll tell you why also. But I want to give an example on what the question you asked. You know, a good example of a company who's investing in their field is TechFan. You know, they have a company called TechFan Ventures in the US, and I think they're based in New York. These guys are investing only in real estate, okay? Real estate, project management, software, you know, etc., services, mostly in real estate, okay? So I think they have a farming business too, so I think they invest in some farming technologies, but it's prop tech that they're investing. So I appreciate that very much because even in that field alone, there are great opportunities. But the reason why we started investing in venture capital was, you know, the real estate returns in Turkey have decreased a lot, especially rental income returns. You know, once we switched over from dollar to, or from euro dollar to Turkish lira to protect the home currency, you know, when you compare it with inflation, the returns are not great at all. So it's not worth doing this business. I mean, it's not a respectable business anymore. It's not profitable. It doesn't matter how big you are. What matters is the profit. So there is very, very minimal profit. You can buy a Turkish government bond and you can make more money, you know. So that tells you that you're not in the right business anymore. So, but we can't just do a fire sale and sell all our, you know, goods and say, okay, we're no longer going to do real estate. There's no such thing. That's our main ship, okay? But we said, let's, you know, break our skeleton just like a lobster does, you know, seasonally. You know, you just get out of your own skull or, you know, your exterior skin, let's say, and then invest in new business. So what else can we do? We said, let's adapt to the new world and start investing in renewable energies in solar fields. So we started investing in, you know, solar businesses, you know, unlicensed solar farms. We started buying small companies, 1 megawatt each. So we started buying eventually a good, whatever we saw it was a good opportunity. And then together with that, we had different banks or funds approach us regarding venture capital. To me, venture capital was a big gamble. You know, I always was very scared that I was going to lose money, just like you asked me earlier. And I was a bit hesitant for 2-3 years. You know, I just kind of sniffed around it, checked around, asked many people, talked to a lot of people. It just didn't sit well with me. But then I started seeing some great returns in different businesses, and I witnessed my friends making money and, you know, some professionals that I really, you know, admired. And so I started, okay, let's start slowly investing to something like this. And that's how we ended up investing in venture capital, because we need to go out of our main focus, our own business, to invest, because you're investing in a long term. Real estate is a very long-term investment initially. You know, it doesn't happen in a year or two. It's like you don't build in 2 years and sell in 1 year. You'd like to do it in 3 years, but sometimes you sell it in 7 years, depending on market conditions. Sometimes you do it in 5. If you're very lucky, it happens in 2, but that's very rarely. So we said, what else can we invest in? Number one for me was logistics, okay? So I started investing in a company called Convoy Logistics in the US. So it's like the Uber of logistics. And then I started investing in Impossible Foods, you know, the artificially flavored meat tasting, you know, veggie burgers, basically. And then I went after the SpaceX thing that took me 3 years. And in the meantime, when I started investing in these companies, a lot of different venture capital firms started getting in touch and, you know, offering different businesses. For example, we had an offer this week from a US company called Picketball. Do you know what's a Picketball? Have you ever heard of it? I didn't either. You know, up until 1 week ago, I had no idea. Apparently, there are, 5 million players in the US alone about Picketball. It's something like tennis, but not exactly, okay? And they make these tennis fields. They make restaurant venues around it, and they even build communities around it. And it's very fashionable to have a pickleball club membership these days. But Wall Street Journal put an article and says, pickleball, you know, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Because of the noise they create in neighborhoods, now the neighborhoods are trying to vote them out of their neighborhood. So it's very unique. But do you think I would invest in something like this? No, never. But is it interesting if you're in the sports field, or, you know, perhaps maybe if you want to promote your goods, you know, if I was Puma or Nike, maybe I would invest in it because I want to sell my products in their business. But I try to focus on, you know, logistics, farming, renewable energy, innovative technology, and pharmaceuticals like biotechnology or the cure for Alzheimer's, oncology. Those are the things that really trigger my interest. I'm not talking about AI because you can have AI in every field. So that's, you know, and gaming. Gaming is something that I do not understand for the life of me. If my life depended on it, I wouldn't be able to play. You know, it's like the last game I played was the Amiga 500, you know, when we were younger. I'm 43, so imagine. So I don't know any games, not even on my phone I can't play. So, but we have about 27%, 25% of our portfolio in gaming businesses, and they're doing great on paper. We didn't see the money yet, but on paper, they look phenomenal. The numbers are amazing. So to answer your question, no, we're in 32 different sectors, 27 countries, 210 companies. So.
Wow.
I have a question.
Sure, Onur.
How about, did you think about doing your own core business out of Turkey?
What do you mean by that?
By investing in construction, doing construction out of Turkey, because the return in the rental is, as you said, too much in Turkey, but out of Turkey, like United States, it's more.
Oh yeah, we are doing, yeah. We do real estate, we do logistic business in California, in New Jersey, Nashville, and in Connecticut. We have investments in logistics, and also we have real estate investments in Europe, in various cities. We have direct investments where we buy the property and just lease it out, renovate and lease it out. And we also have investments through funds. Some of them are real estate and technology funds that we invest online with no signing documents. You know, everything is click, click, tick, tick, you know, and some of them are hardcore businesses where you go and sign big contracts. We invest through funds, you know, of some banks. Yes, we do have investments in real estate through those entities. Those are, you know, real estate investment funds that, yeah, we do, yeah, definitely. You know, in Turkey, at some point, some banks came up with the idea as well. But again, their returns are not more attractive. So we decided to invest in, you know, so to avoid currency loss, you know, this is the main trigger point was, again, the currency. So it's, you know, it's dollar to dollar, euro to euro. So we invest the money, we forget about the currency exchange risk. Very long-term investments, though, I have to say. Like, for example, I give you one example of a real estate investment we made in France, in Spain, and Italy. This is a fund, they buy industrial buildings like a tractor company, for example, okay? A factory. These are not the most popular cities, so it's not like Paris, but it's a city that neither you nor myself have ever heard about it in France. And they buy this huge factory, they demolish it, they rezone it, and then they clean the contamination on the land, on the soil, because it may be oil or, you know, other environmental issues. They clean it. So it takes time, about 5 years to do this, just the cleaning process. And then they redevelop multifamily, so something like canyon, you know, like multi-purpose. So there's an office, residential, you know, commercial component. and it's usually more affordable projects. So we invested in a fund that does that, and it's closed for 11 years. Get this, 11 years. So, but it's an investment. I mean, I strongly promote real estate because it's a real asset. Okay, so. By the way, I want to share a story with you, if you don't mind. I invested in a business in London. It's called Justerini and Brooks, okay? And these are the same guys that created the whiskey that we all tasted, J&B, okay? And that's, the company's on the bottle. J&B actually stands for Justerini and Brooks. So on the bottle, you will read the address, 61 St. James Street in London. So that's where they are. So if you go there, if you want to visit, just knock on the door and you just go in. It's like a small bank branch, and you just give your credit card and you say, okay, I want to buy alcohol, champagne, wine, whiskey, whatever. And you just buy and create an account. They keep it for you in a warehouse with no tax, no stamp duty, nothing. And let's say you buy these bottles and you keep it, okay, like a case of a champagne, let's say. And in 2-3 years' time, that champagne or wine makes about 20 to 30% profit. And if they sell it for you, they make 10% of the profit. So if you have a 30% upside, they take the 10%, and then they give it to you. And the income is tax-free. Supposedly in UK, the not depreciating, but perishable products such as stamps, gold coins, silver coins, antique cars, and wine and whiskey under the, Her Royal Majesty or Her Highness, whatever you want to call it, is exempt from tax. So it's a great investment you can do online. You can write to these guys, you can email them, you can give them your bank details, or you can send them money, and it's legitimate. The company is 250 years old. I invested with them, and you don't have to be a citizen of any country to do it. You don't have to pay taxes in Turkey, and it's a great investment. It's a great hobby, and you learn. So there are similar investments like this in the US in art, but they're not tax-free. This is tax-free. So, for example, is it our business? Nothing to do with us. But it's a great foreign investment that works just like a VC. The only thing is you have to be very patient with it. You can't sell it, You can do an online sale, by the way. You can list your bottles to be sold online, just like a brokerage account. But my advice is buy it, don't touch it for 5 years and see what happens.
So after this class, we all will invest all our money into whiskey.
Alcohol. Yeah. I'm not promoting any drinking. Okay?
That's the common spot.
Just having water, nothing.
Oh my God. So, wow, I will check it out though. It's,
it's very interesting. It's fun.
I don't know.
Watch the videos. They have great YouTube videos about the company. They tell what they do. The British people, they like to market really, really well. It's not as fancy as you think, but it's just very good. They work. It's owned by Diageo, by the way. The company is owned by Diageo.
That's so smart way to do investments also.
Learning.
So, Polat, thank you for being with us here today on Sunday. To sum it up everything, because there are a lot of information you shared with us. So exciting. Mm-hmm. I also took my notes on the side, so it will improve my entrepreneurial mindset a lot also. Thank you on my side at first, and for everyone also. So what would you give as the message to us all in entrepreneurial mindset, let's say, on your perspective, like the last?
Well, I'm going to be a little bit cheesy, so forgive me. We all watched Rocky, right? So it's very easy to quote someone that everybody knows. He says in the film or in the song, wherever, at some point, he says, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down, What matters is that the fact that you get up, okay? So you have to just not let go. You have to not give up on it easily. You know, it's good to, I think it's good to keep on trying, but not to the point that it's going to destroy you. Okay. So basically the difference between my dad's book and what I'm suggesting is that he says, if things are starting to go sour, just cut your losses, eliminate, move on to something else. Okay. Whereas, you know, what I'm saying is, and I'm sure he would be saying the same thing, keep on trying. If you think you're not going to be successful, and if you think it's going to be a failure or you're going to lose a lot of money, just let it go, because time is more valuable than money. The older we get, we realize it more, you know. When I was 33, I wasn't thinking about that. When I'm 43, now I'm realizing that, yes, time is actually more important than money. But because you only have limited windows of time that you can concentrate and dedicate to your work, and you don't want to waste that. So my number one message would be that. And the number two message, to summarize everything that we discussed, is that please study your market. Whatever you're selling or you're promoting, please be objective about the competitors. They might be better than you. They will be better than you, but it shouldn't make you give up. You just have to think a different way. You just have to think out of the box and, you know, find another niche to develop. And if you don't think there isn't any niches left in the market, then don't do that investment. Don't waste your time. So it comes to time again. And the third thing is definitely marketing. So please, when you're launching your product or your service, usually in Turkey it's product, you know, because there's a lot of technical, educated population that are entrepreneurs. But please, you know, think about the packaging as well. Think about yourself as a salesman for a day, and if your life depended on it to make the sale and to, you know, make sure your business survives, you have to think about the packaging, the selling, the distribution channel, who's going to buy it, how are you going to split the commissions? You know, these are all the dynamics that make viable, you know, if you're going to live or not. So I would say as a third point is just, you know, marketing and sales is a very important part of any business.
So thank you again for being with us. Here is the last, please, I want to take a screenshot of us all. If you open your cameras as well, maybe we can show the book as well.
Yes, absolutely.
So we can share in our LinkedIn and Türkiye Eğitim Vakfı side also, it's very important. So everyone open the cameras if possible. If possible, of course. So 3, 2, 1, taking. A minute. Here it is. Opening. Okay. Okay, I will share with you all.
Thank you.
Okay, so thank you again for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a great pleasure meeting you. Please write to me if you need to ask anything afterwards. Arzu, please share my details with anybody that wants it. And I appreciate meeting all of you, and thank you very much for your patience. Have a great Sunday.
Thank you so much.
Okay, guys, don't leave for a moment. After Polat leaves, I will give you an explanation about the final exam. Thank you, Polat.
See you. Bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.